Thank you.
Yeah. So, man, this has been a long time coming, and um, really glad that we're finally here. It's definitely been a learning experience for the both of us.
Yes, indeed it has.
So I guess for everybody, they're new to this, haven't probably met you before, haven't met me before. Why don't you go ahead and start by introducing yourself?
Oh, my name is Kevin Weir, and I am a licensed business coach with Action Coach Business Coaching here in downtown Spokane.
Okay. And how long have you been coaching?
I have been coaching 23 years, 18 plus of those years as an Action Coach Business Coach.
Okay. And for everyone that doesn't know, my name is Skyler Donner. I am the business development manager for Action Coach. I was one of the people in helping launch the local experience. So this is super exciting for the both of us.
Yes, indeed it is.
So I know you're a Spokane veteran, but you weren't always in Spokane. So tell us a little bit about your background and how you became to where you are today.
So very interesting. I'm a Spokane native. My great great grandfather came to Spokane probably between 1900 and 1910 approximately. So I've got quite deep family roots in Spokane. So
You still have family in Spokane?
oh yeah, absolutely. My actually very interesting story. My grandfather was the very first motorcycle cop here in Spokane in 1934.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and then my uncle was a Spokane police officer for probably about 40 years, from 1969 through to about 2000. I believe it was 13. He finally retired, so he had quite the career.
Okay, so your family's always been pretty well involved in the
Oh yeah,
community.
absolutely. My father was a high school teacher at Ferris High School for 20 some odd years. Was a wrestling coach there, and then he was an investment broker with Piper Jaffray and Hopwood. Retired, I think it was like 2006, and then my brother is an investment broker over at RBC Wealth Management, a couple blocks over from where we're at right now here in downtown Spokane.
Wow, so you guys definitely haven't gone far.
No, we have not. And so I actually graduated from Ferris and went down to Washington State University. I always had a dream of being an Army officer. That was one of my big dreams in life. Was when I was young, I loved playing with little Army men. I love war movies. I always loved the lieutenants and the captains leading the troops. I said, I want to do that.
I feel like that was probably every little kid's dream. Like I remember having like the little plastic toy soldiers and always playing with them. So
Yeah. Well, I took it to a whole nother level, obviously.
yeah.
So when I had a really burning passion. I wanted to go to West Point, and I didn't have the grades to go. And one of my mentors in life was a guy named Brian Rogers, and Brian was one of my dad's um, wrestlers, and he went to the Naval Academy, and so he came home from the Naval Academy one time. I was kind of pouring my heart out to him, and he says, "Well, have you heard of ROTC before?" I'm like, "No," and he told me all about it, that I can get my officer's commission and still go to college. It's like, yeah, I want to do that. So sure enough, I went down to Washington State. I ended up getting a 3-year ROTC scholarship, and then went into the Army as a tank platoon leader. And I'd figured, I'm going to make a career of this. And wow, we even went to Germany. I ended up taking a lot of German in high school and college, and then moved to Germany and really perfected my skills in the German language while I was there. But unfortunately for me, one of the things that happened when I was in the Army is that my commander was not ready for prime time. He was sort of what we called the golden boy. He was touted as the future mega leader, was given command way too early, and he failed miserably. And unfortunately, one of the things I learned is that when you have a boss instead of a mentor or a coach, not very good things happen. And it's exactly what happened to me.
Exactly. Yeah, and I feel like when you're in those type of environments, there definitely definitely needs to be that mutual trust. And so if you feel like you have someone that doesn't really respect you in your position for what you're doing for them, it's really not going to make you trust them very well either.
No, it didn't. And one of the things that came out of that is understanding the type of people who are not good to work for. Now, I hadn't really experienced the other side of that, but I definitely know what didn't work. So I got out of the Army, and it was one of those things, well, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? I had planned on spending 30 years of my life, and I decided to go and go get my MBA. So I got out of the Army, took Uncle Sam's money, and went and got that MBA.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, okay, now I'm going to climb the ladder of corporate America.
You said you went to WSU, right?
Yes, so I got my undergrad at Washington State and my MBA at Washington State.
Go Cougs.
Go Cougs is right, yes. Well, you know what? If you cut me, I bleed crimson and gray.
That's better than purple.
That's for sure. So I got my MBA, and my first boss is very interesting. My first boss was a guy named Larry Andre. And if Larry ever hears this broadcast, I want to publicly thank him for being the great leader that he was. And what he was not a boss. He was much more of a coach and mentor. And I remember him one day taking me out, and this is I was working for Taco Bell. And I remember him taking me out into the lobby, and he said, Kevin, what do you see? And I was like, well, I see this, and that. And he said, no, you're missing something major. And we were out there 4 and 5 minutes letting me guess all of these things. And finally, he just said, look up. And it's like, oh my gosh, there it is. And I had missed an item that I was supposed to put up towards the ceiling. He says, here's your problem, Kevin, is that you've got tunnel vision. But that's just a natural part of it. You have to learn how to think much bigger. Mm-hmm. And he taught me a lot of things about how to effectively lead a team of people. And one of the things that came out of that is that I learned, he basically helped me. He didn't just tell me what to do. He helped me think for myself. He in essence coached me. I don't think he realized what he was doing, but he helped me take my academic knowledge that I learned in the MBA program and actually apply it to real world situations.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I feel like, there's a lot of people that, start businesses and things like that because they don't take well to people telling them what to do and things like that. But I feel like those types of business owners don't really make the best bosses, like that aren't very successful, because I feel like part of owning a business and running a team is being able to listen to your team and listen to their ideas. So if you already have someone that the whole reason they started this whole thing was so that they could shut people out, I feel like they're probably not going to be the most successful. I feel like a lot of people need to learn, like you said, to not have that tunnel vision and be able to take in other concepts and other ideas and really see the big picture of what's going on around them.
Yeah. And this is something that with current business owners today is that so many of them are very micro-focused. They only are looking out maybe a week, 2 weeks, maybe a couple weeks into the future. And I think when you have a business owner who can basically do both things at the same time, both look at big picture and look and micro analyze where we are, where the business is today, it's an amazing process on how that works.
Definitely. Yeah. And I mean, these are scary times right now. I mean, every time that we think we're going to be out of this pandemic, it seems like it just keeps coming right back.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
I mean, I remember when it first started, it seemed like every other day we were getting updates on how long they thought this thing was going to play out. And I haven't heard an update in I don't know how long. I mean, it seems like this is just kind of becoming the new way of life, and it's really affecting a lot of people. And so, I think people just have too much of an ego on them to be able to raise their hand and ask for help and get that outsider perspective, like you're saying.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that I see especially in our current COVID pandemic is so many business owners have wanted to put their heads down, just keep working at whatever they need to do, and hope, wish, and believe that they'll come out on the other end. And unfortunately, that's the wrong reaction. But a lot of times, business owners don't know how to do anything differently than they've always done. And it's tragic to see a lot of businesses close down that were viable for years and years and years. Part of it was, yeah, they were already structurally struggling even before COVID. But they could have made it through if they had done something different. Here's a question, Skyler. What's the definition of insanity?
A person that does the same thing over and over but expects different results.
That's exactly right. Doing the same things over and over again, expecting different results. One of the things that I typically like to do is to go in to a business that has been doing the same things over and over again and saying, hey, there's a different way of doing things. Have you ever thought about X? Because one of the things that we have to understand is that it's almost impossible for us to come with solutions on our own. We need some level of outside support, accountability, thought process to enable somebody to get a breakthrough. I mean, great. Yes, there are people who have an absolute genius and they can do it on their own, but they're rare. Mm-hmm. You see very few of them out there. I mean, Richard Branson is an amazing example of somebody who can do that. But most people aren't Richard Branson. I know I'm not.
Yeah, and you see that, I mean, even in large corporations, I mean, eventually when your company gets so big, I mean, even those guys, they have a whole board team, board members that sit and have different responsibilities, financial coaches, financial advisors, Eventually everyone needs a coach.
Yeah.
Some people just need a coach sooner than others.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is. And are there people who can succeed without coaching? Well, of course they can succeed without coaching, but at what level? Mm-hmm. If you think about it, Tiger Woods had probably more coaches than you could ever imagine. I remember the story that he was at a press conference and they said, Tiger, you're the greatest golfer in the world and you have all of these coaches. You have a putting coach, you have a swing coach, you have a mindset coach, you have all sorts of coaches. What do you need coaching for? And it was a very appropriate answer. And he says, you know what? I can't see my own swing. Mm-hmm. And that's very true of almost all of us. We cannot see our own swing. And so you need that outsider who can see things that you can't see on your own. I mean, yeah, could you read books? Could you watch videos? Yeah, absolutely. But without the human element to really look at you as a golfer, as a swimmer, as a business owner, you're basically only getting your feedback or maybe feedback from your employees.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can get feedback from your employees, but your employees are going to tell you what you want to hear. Mm-hmm. Your coach typically tells you what you may not want to hear.
And I feel like, the nice thing about having a coach from what I've seen since I've been here and other businesses that I've worked with, it's not just the fact of it gives you the outsider perspective. It's the fact of, it's almost like a strength coach. It's not that they necessarily know a whole lot more than you do. It's the fact that now you have someone to hold you accountable.
Yep.
That was the biggest thing when I was a professional athlete is I knew how to punch. I knew how to kick. I knew how to do everything I needed to do, but I was lazy. I was the laziest pro athlete you would have ever met in your life. And so I needed those coaches to hold me accountable to make sure that I was in the gym every day and I was doing what I needed to be done. And that's exactly what you do. You make sure that, these business owners are doing the things that are crucial in order to have a successful business.
That's exactly right. And see, as a business owner, Who are you accountable to? No one. You're the top dog.
Mm-hmm.
And without accountability, it's easy for you to basically get to read your own pressing, popularity polls and said, look, I'm wonderful. I'm amazing. People tell me I'm great. And a lot of times that's pure deception. And what a great coach does is comes in and says, you're good here, but you suck over there. Did you realize that? And the typical response I get from people is, yeah, I've kind of known it, but I really have ignored it because I don't know what to do to change it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's easier to ignore things instead of tackle them. And that's where good coaching comes in. It's like, well, we're no longer going to ignore that. We're going to deal with your leadership issue, maybe your financial measurement issue, maybe your lack of vision, maybe your inability to write a system. We're going to deal with those things instead of ignoring them.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever seen Gordon Ramsay's show where he goes in and saves those restaurants and stuff?
Absolutely.
And that always cracks me up because you have these people that know they're just going down the drain fast, and he comes in there and he's just like you. He's very blunt. He's very honest. In his episodes, he does come off a little aggressive, but he's telling these people what they're needing to hear, and their head is just so far in the clouds that it takes a while before they even truly realize it. They're like, yeah, we're $500,000 in debt. Don't know why. It's like, how do you not know why? And I mean, there's things about being a business owner. I know that even when I've owned a business, people see you or running a company and stuff like that, and you get that friend that needs a job, and hire your friend out of the fact that he's your buddy, but he's awful at the job, just awful. And like, decisions like that can be the make or break deciding factor. You don't want to keep somebody who's rendering your business around. And we see that a lot. We see people are like, oh, well, she's really nice and she really needs a job, so I don't want to let her go. It's like, this is a business. You need to make a business decision.
And what that fundamentally is, Skyler, is that's basically what we call living in denial. And I am not talking about a river in Egypt either. And think about this, because like you talk about Gordon Ramsay and people are $500,000 in debt and they're kind of living in the clouds. They may or may not know it. And if they know it, they don't think it's a problem. And see, this is the thing that so many business owners struggle with, is they may know that, but they would rather live in denial and think that everything is okay instead of confronting it head on. Good examples, go back to hiring your friend. They may not be serving you well, but you would rather live in denial and ignore it than confront the issue and push through. And so what great coaching is, it's all about all the things that you are in denial about, bring them up to the surface, and then put a plan to push through the pain that denial is causing you in order to get the true results that you really want to get. And guess what? That's not a lot of fun, but if you don't do it, the pain comes at the other end.
Oh, yeah. And there's a lot of people out there that hate change just due to that fact. They don't like the uncomfortable feeling that comes with it. And, that's kind of what's going on right now. The whole world is changing right now. I mean, my son is 9 years old and he's having to do a whole year of school on his laptop. Never even got to go to recess or play with the kid yet this year. So, I mean, if that doesn't tell you how weird things are right now, businesses are needing to change as well. The world is changing. Businesses need to change. Otherwise, they're going to get stuck in the past, and they're going to be closing their doors soon too.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot of people, like you said, that think that if they just hit the grindstone and just work harder and harder and harder, that it'll fix things. And
well, it's interesting. I have an interesting story. When I was first got into Action Coach in 2002, one of my first prospective clients He owned a carpet store. He was 70 years old, and he was wanting to sell the business, but he was still working 10, 12 hours a day. And one of the things that I asked him is, well, tell me about your bookkeeping. I asked him, how many hours do you spend a day doing bookkeeping? He goes, about 3 to 4 hours a day. I said, what? He goes, yeah. I said, tell me how you do bookkeeping. He pulls out a leather-bound, handwritten debit and credit ledger that looked like it came from the 1940s. And so I was like,
Just one of those. I just picture a giant book.
big, I mean, we're talking big one of those big old things that, you've seen the old movies back in the 30s and 40s. He was using that. And I told him, I said, so have you ever heard of a program called QuickBooks? He goes, what's that? And I describe it to him that you can basically put this onto a computer, and you can cut that down to maybe about 15 minutes a day. And of course, here I am, brand spanking new. I'm thinking of myself, wow, I'm going to tell this guy about QuickBooks and give him ideas. He's going to get all excited. And he goes, I am 70 years old. I am too old to learn all these fancy computer terminologies in that stupid machine.
Yeah.
I said, but you're telling me it's a pain in the rear end that you're spending 3 to 4 hours a week doing bookkeeping. And I can tell you, if you take the time to learn this, you can cut that down to 15 minutes. And he just told me, nope, I'm not going to learn it. And see, this is the problem with resistance to change, is that you have to be willing to say, you know what, I need to do things differently to get different results. I cannot sit here and pretend that somebody's going to wave a magic wand over me and that 4 hours is going to cut down to 15 minutes without doing something dramatically different.
Yeah, and I don't know if I heard this from you or if I read this in one of Brad Sugar's books, but you have to be comfortable with becoming uncomfortable. Getting out of that comfort zone is the best way that you're going to succeed. If you just stay in your comfort zone and stay with what you know, you're never going to grow, because if you don't grow as a person, your company won't grow with you.
Yeah. And this is something that I really focus in on, and I tell my clients this, is that you are going to have to get comfortable with not feeling that you know everything. See, a lot of business owners thrive on the idea that their teams see them as the ultimate source for all knowledge within the business, when in all reality, it should be the team that has all the ultimate knowledge. Actually, in an ideal world, you as a business owner have very little knowledge. Okay, it's the team that has that. You're the one that's giving the motivation, the inspiration, and the finances to take this business to the next level. And see, this is where you have to have a complete mind shift. The problem with the most business owners is that their identity is in the technical knowledge. I am a fantastic motorcycle mechanic. I am an excellent carpet layer. I am an absolutely wonderful dentist. And if your identity is only that, you need to flip that around, because here's what happens. When you have that identity, you suck the oxygen out of the room, because then nobody else in your business can be as smart as you. When you flip it around and you start changing your identity to say, I am a business owner, I am an entrepreneur, I am a resource for business growth, and you start changing that, guess what? The spotlight falls on every other employee in your business, and that it's your responsibility to develop them and get them to be better every single day, so that you can actually live the life that you want to live as a business owner and not be consumed by your own business.
And so, yeah, there's got to be tons and tons of CEOs out there that could probably step into their warehouses and have no idea what's going on. And like you said, that's not their job. Their job is to make sure that the finances for the operation stay afloat and that the profits continue to grow. That's their job. There's no reason that, there's so many business owners out there that feel like they need to know every single step of the process to the T, when that's just a lot of wasted time, because then you're going to be spending all your time making sure that they're doing it this certain way when you just need to let them do their job.
Yeah. And see, a lot of times when I'm in a coaching session with a client, I ask them to do a task. They're immediately going, Kevin, I don't have time. I got all this other stuff. I don't have time to do that. And my response is, did I tell you to do it? Well, you gave me the assignment. I said, but are you required to do it? Or can you delegate that to somebody in your team to do it? Mm-hmm. And they look at me like, holy cow, that's right. I can do that.
I have a whole staff that works for me.
Exactly, because our identity gets so consumed in what we do that we forget that we have amazingly talented individuals who should be doing a lot more than just the mundane tasks that we're asking them to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I know that everything has kind of been, because I mean, we're talking about other companies changing right now, so we might as well talk about how has this, because we've gone through a lot of change ourselves. I mean, for instance, hiring me.
Yeah.
How has everything changed from where you were before me to where we are now? How have you felt through that process? What did you look like before? What does it look like now?
In context, I mean, we might step back a little bit further. So I started the business in 2002, grew the business, moved in 2006 from where I was living in Tacoma at the time, back home to Spokane, rapidly grew the business on the back of the building industry. When we were go, I was coaching a lot of building industry businesses. And then the recession hit, we plunged down. Mm-hmm. I had 5 coaches at one time. Support staff and everything, and tried to keep the thing afloat. But in 2014, we broke it up. I became a single practice coach again, came downtown. And so from 2014 to 2020, I was just kind of floating along, not really pushing pedal to the metal. But one day I was in prayer, and you know that I'm a very strong born-again, spirit-filled Christian, and I allow God, he speaks in my life. And I started really taking a look at, I'm 58 years old. I need to do far more than I'm doing right now. And I had gotten comfortable. And I felt in my spirit that it's time to get uncomfortable. I needed to take this to a whole nother level. Because think about this, I could be floating along and just taking a client here, kind of keeping my clients and keep doing this, but what good am I doing on a bigger community?
Yeah.
And so I've always had this passion and desire to help business owners, but I can't do it all myself, and I wasn't reaching out to anybody. And it's interesting, Brad Sugars made a comment, and he made a coaching set. He was coaching us business owners, and he said, in a quote, "How many businesses are you okay with failing in your community?" And it sunk in for a second. How many businesses am I okay with failing in the Spokane community? Well, obviously the answer is no, 0.
Yeah.
But what was I doing to put a message out there of hope to these business owners and helping them push through this crisis? I wasn't. Mm-hmm. And I started getting into prayer, and God said, God kind of spoke and said, Brad Sugars is right. You've been sitting on your duff, not pushing the envelope. And so I see there's such a need out there. It grieves my heart every time I see a business going under or struggling or just about ready to lose it all because not only of the COVID crisis, but of their own issues. It's the sadness that I get in my heart. And I just would pray. I remember praying one night about that, and God just said, it's time to get out of your comfort zone, because there's a lot of business owners out there who need you and they don't even know you exist.
Mm-hmm.
And that was powerful. So made a decision to go ahead, and the first step on that was to get some funding, and the second one was to hire a business development manager. And I hired you because you had the spirit and the heart to do this job.
Had some crazy ideas though.
Yeah.
My ideas seem to be a little out there sometimes.
But think about it is, here's the whole thing. If I don't listen to ideas and think I have everything, what am I going to be doing? Nothing. I can't allow me to be the fountain of all the ideas in the world. Yes, Action Coach has probably the best business coaching system for both coaches and business owners. It's amazing. But if I just keep it inside of that, then I'm not exploring any other possibilities out there.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, how much would you say you've had to come out of your comfort zone since hiring me?
I think a lot, because I'm so used to doing everything myself as a single practice coach.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had to entrust you. I've given you systems and processes and ways to do things and good guidance. But guess what? You have your own unique abilities, and I need to allow you to use those unique abilities.
Yeah. Yeah, because I know that, I mean, even for me, this process has definitely taken me out of my comfort zone. You know, when I'm the type of person, when I have an idea, I'm like, man, this sounds awesome, but I didn't really look into how much was going to play into this. You know, at first when I was thinking that we should have a podcast, I was thinking, you know, just like a little talk show thing, and it's turned into its own like entity, and we've dumped time and money into this, and so it's been a huge learning process for me as well. But you know, I think it's going to be a great thing. You know, you said that you want to get the message out there. I want that same thing. You know, I was born in Walla Walla and raised in Colville, been big part of Spokane over the years, and I don't want to see Spokane or Colville or any part of Washington fail for that matter. So the fact that, you know, we started doing the free webinars every Friday, started doing the daily tips and tricks, you know, now we have the podcast to give the community a bigger perspective of what's going on, not just with us but with everybody. I feel like there's finally a lot of really good, valuable things that we're offering to people at every level on the spectrum. Whether they're just an employee wanting to hear what's going on in the economy, or they're a business owner that's just starting out needing help, or like you said, some corporation that's ready to just take it to the next level.
Yeah.
So that looks like it's pretty close to our time here, but I wanted to say thank you for taking the time with me again today, and can't wait to see where this thing goes.
Well, I'm looking forward to being in that seat, interviewing very interesting and talented people in our business community, and just having an engaging conversation with them about what they're seeing out there and some of the fun stories that they have.
Yeah, I'm really excited, and I think it's going to be great. So thank you again, and for everyone that's watching, please like and subscribe, and you can make sure to see us on all the new content to come.
All right. Thank you very much, Skyler.